Have you bought this crochet kit from Kmart? Are you completely confused by the instructions? If so, know that you're not alone. Throw the instructions away, watch this tutorial instead, and I'll show you how to make this little bubble tee. Okay, so this is everything that you get included in the kit. You get some purple yarn, white yarn, some brown yarn, and a little bit of black yarn. You get a stitch marker and a plastic tapestry needle, some stuffing. They include a 2.5mm crochet hook. I'm going to use my own 2.5mm hook for this tutorial. This is a beginner friendly tutorial, but if this is your very first time picking up a crochet hook, you might want to start with my How to Crochet for Absolute Beginners playlist. That covers some of the basics, like how to hold your hook and yarn, how to do a magic circle, and how to do a single crochet, which is the main stitch we'll be using in this tutorial. So if any point this tutorial is going too fast for you, make sure to check out that playlist. Okay, so to start the body of the bubble tee, we want the purple yarn, and we're going to start with a magic circle or a magic ring. Now, magic rings can be quite tricky. I've included a link to a beginner's tutorial for how to do a magic ring where I go a little bit slower, and in that video I also share an alternative approach you can use if you're really struggling to get the hang of the magic circle. But essentially, to do a magic circle, you want to hold your yarn tail between your thumb and first finger facing down with the yarn ball to the left of you, and then wrap the yarn around your first two fingers underneath, and then cross it over into an X like so, and hold it in place with your third finger. So you'll have an X on top, and then you'll have two bars of yarn on the back, and I just hold this piece of yarn with my thumb. Then you want to take your crochet hook, go under this first bar of yarn here, grab the second bar of yarn with the head of your crochet hook and pull it through to the other side. And then you're going to twist your crochet hook so that you're sitting on top like so. And then for the final step, we're going to grab this bar of yarn here with the head of our crochet hook. So we're just going to drape it over the hook like so, and then we're going to pull it through this loop here. And that's a magic ring. I'll show you that one more time. Yarn tail facing down, wrap it around into an X. This strand of yarn here will be on top and this one here underneath. Under the top strand of yarn, grab the second strand, pull it through to the other side and twist it on top, and then grab this strand of yarn and pull that through the loop on your hook. Hi, I just wanted to quickly jump in here to tell you that I'm very excited to have launched my own Learn How to Crochet kit. So if you're getting frustrated with your Kmart kit at any point and you want to upgrade to a kit that has better materials and better quality instruction, be sure to check out my Learn How to Crochet kit in my YouTube storefront or on Etsy or madeit.com.au. I'll include a little bit more information about the kit and what you can expect at the end of this video. Thanks so much for watching. Then we're going to do 6 single crochets into the magic ring. The pattern says to do a double crochet. That's because they are using UK terminology, but for consistency I always use US terminology on this channel because the Kmart kits kind of seem to alternate between the two. So it's the same stitch, but it's called a single crochet in US terms and double crochet in UK terms. Again, I've included a slower tutorial for how to do a single crochet if you're brand new to crochet. But to work into the magic ring is just like working a normal single crochet, except instead of inserting your hook into the stitch, you just insert it into the middle of the ring. So I like to hold the ring with my third finger and thumb, and then you can just insert your hook into the ring. Yarn over, so drape the yarn over your crochet hook from the back to the front. Hook the yarn in the head of your crochet hook and pull it through to the other side of the circle. You'll now have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over again, so again drape the yarn from the back to the front, catch it in the head of your crochet hook and pull that through both of those loops. And that's our first single crochet. Now we want to mark this stitch with our stitch marker because it's the first stitch of the round, and we'll use our stitch marker to know where our rounds start and end. So to use a stitch marker, you just want to insert it under both prongs of the V of the stitch that we've just done. So on the top you'll see a V like so, and you want to go under both parts of the V, and it's just above the base of the stitch in this little gap here. This is also where we're going to be inserting our crochet hook when we work into the stitch in the next round. Okay, so we'll do another 5 single crochets into the magic circle. So again, just insert your hook into the circle, yarn over and pull up a loop. You'll have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. And do that 6 times in total. once you've done 6 single crochets, you can pull on this yarn tail and that will close up your magic circle. If nothing happens when you pull the tail, you might have done your magic circle the wrong way around, so give it another go. Okay, now for round 2, we're going to do increases, and increases just means that we're doing 2 stitches into every 1 stitch. So our first stitch of the round is going to be this one with our stitch marker in it. So you just want to insert your crochet hook exactly where the stitch marker is. If you find it hard to work into the stitch with the stitch marker still in it, you can take it out. And we'll do 1 single crochet. And now we want to put our stitch marker into that stitch because it's our first stitch of round 2. But because we're doing an increase, we want to do another single crochet back into the very same stitch. So to make sure you're going into the same stitch, just follow this bar of yarn here down into where it's coming out of your work, and then just insert your hook back into that very same spot and do a second single crochet. And that's an increase because we've done 2 single crochets into the 1 stitch. Then we're going to move on to the next stitch, and I'll just show you as well where I'm inserting my hook. So on the top of your work is a V. You want to go under both prongs of the V of the stitch, and you're going just above the base of the stitch, just directly under those 2 prongs, like so. So we'll do 1 single crochet and then a second, and we'll just do this into each stitch around. So into the next stitch we'll do 1 and 2, and by the end of this row we'll have 12 stitches because we've done 2 into every one of the 6 stitches we did in round 1. So it's a good idea to count your stitches, make sure you haven't added too many or too few, and you can do that by just counting the V's on top of your work. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, for round 3, we're going to alternate between single crochets and increases. So into the first stitch, the one with our stitch marker, we'll do 1 single crochet, and we'll move our stitch marker into that stitch. Then we'll move on to the second stitch, and into that second stitch we'll do an increase. So 2 single crochets into that second stitch. 1, 2. Then into the third stitch we'll just do 1 single crochet. And into the fourth stitch we'll do an increase, so 2 into that. And then you just want to repeat this pattern around, alternating between single crochets and increases. And by the end of round 3 you should have 18 stitches. Now for round 4, the pattern we're going to follow is single crochet, increase, single crochet. So into the first stitch we'll do just the 1 single crochet. Into the second stitch we'll do an increase, so 2 into that stitch. And into the third stitch we'll do just the 1 single crochet. And then we'll repeat that pattern, so into the fourth stitch we're doing 1 single crochet, into the fifth we're doing an increase, and into the sixth we're doing a single crochet. And then just keep repeating this pattern around, single crochet, increase, single crochet. You'll repeat the pattern 6 times and you'll have 24 stitches by the end of this round. Then for round 5 you're going to do 3 single crochets in a row followed by an increase. So single crochet in the first stitch, make sure to move your stitch marker, single crochet in the second stitch and in the third, and then in the fourth stitch we're doing an increase. And then you can just follow that pattern around. By the end of round 5 you should have 30 stitches. Then for round 6 we're going to do 2 single crochets, increase, 2 single crochets. So single crochet, Move our stitch marker, single crochet, increase, single crochet, single crochet. And then we'll repeat that again, so we'll do a single crochet, increase, single crochet, single crochet. You repeat the pattern 6 times and have 36 stitches by the end of row 6. For round 7, we're going to do 5 single crochets in a row, followed by an increase. And just repeat that pattern 6 times and you'll have 42 stitches by the end of this round. Now for round 8, we're just going to be doing single crochets all the way around, 42 single crochets in total, so just 1 into every stitch. However, we're going to be working under what's called the back loop only. So I mentioned at the start that the top of your stitch has a V, it has a front loop, and it has a back loop. Normally when we're working into the stitch, we go under both the front and the back loop, so you have 2 prongs of yarn on your hook. But for this round, we're only going to work into the back loop, so that's the loop furthest away from you. So instead of inserting your hook under both prongs of the V, you want to insert it in the middle of the V and just go under that back loop. And then you'll do a single crochet as normal. And we're going to do this into each stitch around. So again, at this next stitch, we want to go into the middle of the V and just pick up that back loop and do a single crochet. And we'll do this into each stitch around. And you'll see when you do this that you leave a little ridge along here, which is the front loops that we didn't work into. And so the reason we're just working into the back loop only is because this is actually going to serve as the base of our bubble tee. And so this is going to give us a nice little edge. Okay, once you've finished round 8, now is a good time for us to weave in our initial yarn tail. So when you started your work, you had a tail that came out of your magic ring. We just want to weave this in to secure it in place so that it doesn't come unraveled. So for that, you'll need your tapestry needle. They include a plastic one in the kit, but they're really hard to work with, so I'm going to use my metal one. And to weave in your yarn tail, you just want to thread the yarn onto your needle. And we're just going to weave in and through a few different stitches. You want to go under at least 4 or 5 stitches, and you also want to work in at least 3 different directions to make sure that your tail doesn't come unraveled. And then if this side was going to be visible, we could trim this tail off, but because this is going to be the inside of our bubble tee, we can leave that tail loose and it will just form part of the stuffing. Now, the other important thing to know is the difference between the right side and the wrong side of your work. So the side that had your tail poking out of it, this is the wrong side of the work, or the side that should be inside your bubble tee. And then this side here, which looks a little bit more defined, that is the right side or the outside of your bubble tee. You might have found that your work is naturally curled in like this, so you might just have to push it through so that it starts to curl this way instead. Then for round 9, we're going to do single crochets all the way around, but we're going to go back to working under both loops of the V. So we'll do our first single crochet as normal, just going under both prongs of the V. Move your stitch marker, and then just do single crochets all the way around. So no increases, just 1 single crochet into every 1 stitch. And then we're just going to repeat this for rows 9 all the way through to row 26. Always working under both prongs of the V and making sure to move your stitch marker at the end of each round so that you know where you're up to. And make sure to also keep track of what round you're on, or if you are more familiar with crochet, you may be able to count your rows as well. That is a useful skill to learn, knowing how to count your rows, so it's a good idea to practice that as well. But basically keep working around one single crochet into every stitch until you reach the end of round 26, and I'll meet you back here then. Come back here just before you finish that last stitch in round 26, because I'm going to show you how to change over to the white yarn for the start of round 27. Okay, so I'm at my second to last stitch of row 26, but we want to switch to the white yarn because we're going to be using the white yarn for row 27 onwards. So to do that, we're going to start our final stitch of row 26 as normal. So insert your crochet hook and pull up a loop. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. Then you just want to pick up your white yarn, drape it over your crochet hook, and then we're just going to pull that white yarn through those 2 loops to complete the stitch. Then you can cut off your purple yarn, just leave a tail for weaving in. And then we're going to switch to working with the white yarn. So be careful not to pick up the tail. You can just poke that inside for now, along with the purple tail. And then we'll use the white yarn for the rest of our bubble tee. So for row 27, we're just doing single crochets all the way around, 42 in total, using the white yarn. Then for row 28, we're going to do 42 single crochets all the way around, but this time we're going to just work under the back loop only. So as a reminder, you've got your front loop and your back loop of the stitch. To work under just the back loop, you want to insert your hook into the middle of the V and just catch that back loop. And we'll just do this for each stitch around. So again, just going into the middle of the V and just catching that back loop instead of going under both prongs of the V. You want to do this all the way around for row 28, and then for row 29 you'll do 42 single crochets as normal, so going under both prongs of the V, and then I'll meet you back here at the end of row 29. Okay, so I've just finished row 29, and for row 30 we're going to start doing decreases to close up the top of our cup. But I actually think now is a good time to do some of the details on our cup. You can do it once you've finished the cup and stuffed it, which is what the pattern recommends, but I think it's just a little bit easier to work with when you can access the back of the pattern. So the first thing to do is to make sure you've got the right side facing out. So your initial yarn tail from your magic circle should be on the inside. That's how you know you've got the right side facing out. And what I suggest you do is just weave in these 2 yarn tails here. So good idea to use a stitch marker just to keep your work secure while you are weaving in. So we'll just weave in these 2 yarn ends in the same way that we wove in our initial one. Now you can trim these ends if you're worried that they are going to get in the way, but you don't need to. So now we're just going to do the little bubbles or pearls on the outside of the cup. So they've just kind of scattered them around on the bottom third or so of the cup in the product photo. So for that you'll need the brown yarn and your tapestry needle. They include a plastic one in the kit. They're really hard to work with, so I'm going to use my own metal needle. So what you want to do is cut a manageable amount of the brown yarn. If you use the whole amount, it'll just take a really long time to thread through. And then thread that onto your tapestry needle. And then you just want to insert your needle from the inside of your cup and pull it through to the outside, and pull it most of the way through, but not all the way through. So leave a tail here and be careful not to pull too hard and pull that through. And then to secure our tail in place, I suggest just inserting your needle back into your work, a stitch away from your where you came out. Pull that through, being careful not to pull it all the way through. And then we can just knot these two bits of yarn together to make sure it doesn't pull through. Okay, and then to do the purl details, you want to come back through to the outside. Okay, then we're going to do a French knot. So to do that, you want to wrap the yarn around your needle, say 4 or 5 times. The more times you wrap it, the larger your knot will be. Then you want to insert your hook back into the fabric, not into the same hole that you came out of, but close to it. And then you just want to make sure that this is pulled really tightly around the needle before you pull it through. And I just usually use the thumb on my left hand to pull that, that yarn tight. And then you can grab the needle from the other side and pull it all the way through while keeping the tension on that piece of yarn there. And then that creates a little ball like so. So then you just want to come back up where you want your second knot to sit and pull that all the way through. And then we'll repeat this. So just wind the yarn around the needle 4 or 5 times. Hold some tension on the yarn, insert your needle back into the work close to but not into the same hole. Make sure that's wrapped nice and tightly around the needle and then pull that through. And then you just want to continue this all the way around until you're happy with the number of pearls. Okay, then once you've added your pearls all the way around, you can tie a knot to secure your work. If you want to be ultra confident that it's not going to come undone, you might want to weave these ends in as well. Then we just want to add the face details. So for that you'll want the black yarn. Now I'm actually going to use some plastic safety eyes to do the eyes. Safety eyes can be great for making amigurumi. They tend to provide a much neater eye than sewing it on. The main thing to know about safety eyes is they're not actually safe for children. They are a choking hazard and they do have a tendency to come through on crochet fabric. So don't use safety eyes if you are wanting to give your toy to a young child. But if not, you can get a pack of safety eyes on Amazon pretty cheaply, and they can be a great option if you are making amigurumi toys that are not going to be for young children. I will sew the mouth on. If you don't have safety eyes, they don't include any in the kit, then to do your eyes, you just want to replicate the French knots we did for the pearls and do your eyes in the same way. To add the face, you just want to do it on the opposite side to the back. So where we've been starting and finishing our rows, you'll see there's a wee jog here where the colour change happens. So generally you want that at the back. To use safety eyes, you just poke them through the fabric and then use the backing on the other side to secure it in place. Or like I said, if you're sewing it on, then you can just do it in the exact same way that you did the little pearls. And then for the mouth, so for the mouth you'll just use the black yarn. Again, I suggest cutting it into a more manageable length. And you just want to come up wherever you want the mouth to start, and again just be careful not to pull it all the way through. Then you want to come back down where you want the mouth to end, so on the other side of the mouth, and pull that through, but don't pull it all the way through. Leave this a little bit loose, because then what you want to do is come back up in the middle at the bottom where you want the bottom of the mouth to sit, and just make sure that you're coming on top of the loop of yarn, and then you can pull it tight and it will pull it down into a little smile, and then you can go back down just below the smile to secure that in place like so. And then we can again just knot these two ends. to secure this in place. Again, weaving in these ends if you want to be extra secure. And now all our little details are done. We can continue with the top of the bubble tee. Again, if these ends are annoying you, you can cut them off, but you can also just leave them to sit inside the bubble tee to form part of the stuffing, essentially. Okay, for row 30, we're going to start to do some decreases on this row, but we're going to start by doing 5 single crochets into the first 5 stitches. And then once we've done our 5 single crochets, we're going to do a decrease over the next 2 stitches. So I'll show you how to do an invisible decrease, which is the best type of decrease to do for amigurumi. So normally we're going under both prongs of the V of the stitch. Instead, we just want to go under the front prong. So earlier we were just working under the back loop. This time we just want to work under the front loop. So you're going underneath that front loop and coming out in the middle of the V of the stitch. Then you want to swing your crochet hook down so you can get it under the front loop of the next stitch. Then you'll have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through those 2 loops. You'll have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2. And essentially we've created 1 stitch out of 2, which is why it's a decrease. So then you just want to repeat this pattern around. So again, we'll do 5 single crochets into the next 5 stitches. And then do a decrease over the next 2. So again, just go under that front prong of the next stitch, swing your crochet hook down to go under the front prong of the stitch after that, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then you just want to repeat this pattern around. So to finish this row, you'll do 5 single crochets followed by a decrease. In total, you do that pattern 6 times and you'll have 36 stitches by the end of row 30. Then you can follow the instructions on the screen for the next few rows, which are all just combinations of single crochets and decreases. So for row 31, you'll do 2 single crochets, a decrease, then 2 more single crochets. You'll repeat that pattern 6 times and you'll have 30 stitches by the end of row 31. For row 32, you'll do 3 single crochets followed by a decrease. You'll repeat that pattern 6 times and have 24 stitches by the end of row 32. For row 33, you'll do a single crochet, a decrease, a single crochet. You'll repeat that pattern 6 times and have 18 stitches by the end of row 33. And for row 34, you'll alternate between single crochets and decreases. You'll repeat that 6 times and have 12 stitches by the end of row 34. And I'll meet you back here at the end of row 34 to show you how to do the final row and to finish off our bubble tee. Okay, so I've just finished row 34. Now we want to stuff our bubble tee. So they provide some fibre fill. They give you quite a lot more than you need, so don't feel the need to use all of it. Then for row 35, we're just going to do decreases all the way around. And then we want to fasten off. So to fasten off, you just want to cut a yarn tail and leave a decent one because we'll use this to do an invisible close. And then you just want to yarn over and pull that yarn all the way through and pull tight to create a knot. Then to do an invisible close, you just want to thread this yarn tail onto your tapestry needle. And we're just going to go work under the front loops, and we're going to come up under the first front loop and then down under the front loop of the next stitch, and just do this all the way around your final row. Then you can pull tightly on that string and that'll just close up the gap in your work. Then you just want to weave this end in to secure it. Then once that's nice and secure, you can actually hide this yarn tail by poking your needle into the bubble tee and pulling it out somewhere else in the body. And then you can just trim this yarn tail and wiggle it a little bit to lose the end. Now to finish off the top of the yarn tail, you want to pick up your white yarn And we're going to do a row of stitches around this ridge here. So this is where we did the back loop only stitches, which meant we left the front loops, which are creating this line here, and it's these front loops that we're going to work into for this row. So at the back of your work you'll see where your row of back loop only starts and ends. You want to go into the last stitch of that row, and then we'll just chain one. And then we're going to work around these loops. We're going to do double crochets. So to do a double crochet, you want to yarn over before you insert your hook. And you just want to insert your hook just under that loop that's visible. Yarn over, pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through the next 2 loops. And then we're just going to do double crochets into each one of these visible loops all the way around. So again, yarn over, just go under that loop there. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and just repeat this all the way around. Okay, so annoyingly I don't quite have enough white yarn to finish this row. Luckily, because I've made so many Kmart kits, I do have some left over yarn from other kits, just trying to figure out which white is the closest. I'm also not going to have enough of the purple yarn to do the straw. Again, luckily I have some purple yarn from another Kmart kit left over. This is really frustrating though. I find it so annoying that these Kmart kits quite often don't have enough yarn to finish your projects. If, like me, you do run out of yarn and you do have some extra yarn lying around that you can use to finish your project, then the way to change your yarn is just like what we did for when we changed between the purple and the white. So you want to yarn over, pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through 2, and then stop here before you finish that stitch. Then grab your new piece of yarn that you're wanting to add and just pull that through the 2 loops on your hook. Then you can switch to that new ball of yarn and continue to work with it. Okay, and then once you get all the way back around, we just want to slip stitch back to the top of the initial chain that we did, just to join our round together. And then fasten off, so just cut a yarn tail, yarn over and pull that all the way through. And that's just created a nice little rim to the top of our bubble tea. So now we need to make the straw. As I mentioned, this is how much purple yarn I had left over, which I don't think is going to be quite enough to make the straw, but luckily I had some left over from another project. If you don't have enough purple yarn to do the straw, you could also use the brown colour for the straw. I think that would work quite well as well. And to make the straw, we're going to start with another magic ring. So as a reminder for how to do that, you want to hold your yarn tail facing down between your thumb and first finger. Wrap the yarn into an X around your first 2 fingers. And go under this first strand of yarn, grab the second strand, pull it through and twist your crochet hook on top. And then grab this strand of yarn here and pull that through the loop on your hook. Then you're going to do 8 single crochets into the magic circle, marking the first one with your stitch marker. Then once you've done 8 single crochets, you can just pull on that yarn tail to close it up. Then for rows 2 through to 10, you're just going to do 8 single crochets all the way around. I would suggest about halfway through, once you've done about 4 rows, that's a good time to stop and weave in your initial yarn tail. Okay, and then once you've done 10 rows, you can fasten off. Again, leave a decent yarn tail because we'll use that to attach the straw to our bubble tea. Then you just want to put a little bit of fibre fill into the straw. And then we're just going to sew it onto the top of our bubble tea. So you want to do that just by threading that yarn tail onto your tapestry needle. And then what we'll do is just insert the hook under a stitch on the top of your lid, and then you just want to come up through a stitch on that final row of the straw, and then grab another stitch on the lid and come back up through, stitch on the straw, back down through the next stitch and catch another stitch on the cup, and then you can keep working around in this way until you've gone all the way around the straw. Then once you've gone all the way around, I like to create a knot by just inserting my hook through the loop on my yarn. And then we can hide this yarn tail by just inserting it into the body of the bubble tea and out somewhere else. And then we just want to do the same thing with these yarn tails in the white. So just weaving them in a few stitches before hiding them in your work. And your little bubble tea is complete. Thanks so much for watching this video. I really hope that you found it useful. And if you made it to this point in the video, I'm so grateful. You are my people, and I am so glad that you found your way here. And if this project has got you hooked on crochet, be sure to like and subscribe for more info and inspo for new crochet makers. Also, if you're really wanting to master the art of crochet, be sure to check out my Learn How to Crochet kit in my YouTube storefront. So this kit is a little bit different from others that you'll find in the market. I've designed this kit more like a Learn How to Crochet masterclass in a box. And by that I mean that I've specifically designed the patterns so that they are ideal for beginners, cover all of the major stitches and techniques that you'll want to master when you're starting out. What this means is that by the end of the kit, you'll be able to tackle basically any beginner, advanced beginner, and even some intermediate crochet projects. So in this kit, you'll learn things like how to keep your edges straight, how to manage your tension, how to seam, and even how to do some color work. Each pattern builds on the skills that you learned in the previous pattern so that your confidence and your skill set will grow as you work through the kit. And by the end of the kit, you'll have some great little items that you can use around your house. The kit is also designed to teach you how to read a crochet pattern because I've included detailed long form written instructions alongside short form notation in the format that crochet patterns are typically written, along with detailed step-by-step tutorials. It also includes troubleshooting support and other handy tips and tricks. I've also designed the projects to expose you to different types of fibers, different styles of crochet, and different hook sizes, so you can start to learn what you really enjoy to crochet with. So make sure you go and check it out and let me know what you think. If you want to say thanks for any tutorial that you found useful, you can buy me a coffee, which is linked down in the description below. Thank you so much for crocheting with me today, and happy crafting!